She hated when Dennis Rodman would get kicked out of the game because he would always take off his jersey and throw it into the stands. Well, 9 times out of 10, she would be over there where he was leaving, and they would just trample her trying to get to this Dennis Rodman jersey. So, she had some exciting stories to tell about that. But yeah, that was during our first year of marriage.
That's the voice of Robert T. Graves, and last time we discussed some hilarious stories behind the scenes at 99.5 KKLA, as well as 1390 K-Lite. Now, Robert, share some more stories that listeners never witnessed, but we did.
There was another host by the name of Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, and he would be on K-Lite. And another board op of mine, Bobby, would be down there while I'm working on KKLA on Saturday nights, and his program was pre-recorded, but the phone lines would just light up. Wow. And she would come down there to me, and I would ask her, "What's going on down there? Are you giving away something?" She goes, "No, it's Jesse Lee Peterson on the air, and people are calling in because they're not agreeing with some of the stuff that he's talking about." And it's like, oh wow! And then I ended up running the board for him on KKLA a couple of times. So yeah, his way of thinking was real interesting.
Yeah, I worked with him one time live on the air, and he was actually in the studio. He was not in the Studio B, which was the place where Cedric usually hosted the show and everybody else. And there was this one guy who kept on saying, "Damn it." Fortunately, the delay for K-Lite had like certain amount of seconds taken off, not the whole delay taken off, so I was able to dump it all. But if it had been on KKLA, I mean, yeah, damn it's not a, finable word from the FCC, but, listeners of KKLA might complain. And so, and then I remember when, I think you were there when the Reverend Dr. Cecil Chip Murray was on Living by the Word with John Coleman. And it was really interesting because they were like, "Yeah, Chip didn't bring his Bible. We're going to get him." And so
I was there.
The caller called up and said, "Yeah, Chip, you look just like Willie Brown, the mayor of San Francisco." And John Coleman says, "You apologize to Chip right now." And Chip's like, "That's all right." No, Chip, he needs to apologize. You apologize to Chip or I'm blasting you to cyberspace. And the guy's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Chip. They say you look like Willie Brown." And he was like, "That's all right."
Yep. I remember that. I remember that night. Yeah, that was yes. I remember when he came in because they were gearing up for him. And it's like, what are you guys planning on doing? They were really gearing up for him. But eventually, I remember that John Coleman, I think, eventually ended up leaving. And, I would share with you, too, when I worked for the other AM stations there, KTIE and KXMX, I had to do some live board shows for them. And there was one guy that came in called King Nat and his talking drum. And this guy came in full King African attire his first time in there. And they spoke English, Spanish, and French. And it was like a party in there on Sunday mornings. So my Sundays were busiest. Saturdays were kind of busy, but Sundays were the busiest because I think I had like 3 live shows that I had to board op from KXMX, and then a couple of them that came through KTIE, and then I had to do the shows that came in over the satellite and stuff. And then I also did the sports shows there too, Cal State San Bernardino basketball and University of Redlands football. And that was interesting how I got that. And then I even did the Dodger games, some NFL stuff, and even Irwindale Speedway on Saturday night. So I had a lot of stuff that I had going on over there that was really interesting to do.
Yeah, I forgot all about those sports because, the last couple of years, I think since the Rams moved back to Los Angeles, 590 has been the official Inland Empire home of the Rams. So,
really?
Yeah, because we had the Lakers for many years as well, but once the Rams came back to L.A., we switched to them. I'm not sure who the Inland Empire home of the Lakers is currently, although, I was a Laker fan for a long time. I just lost complete interest once LeBron James came on the team. It's just,
yeah.
I mean, I've been rooting more for the Clippers these days, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean,
I would never.
Yeah,
but the Clippers just can't seem to get that championship no matter what. Yeah. It's like, I don't see it this year at all. But, I mean, a couple of years ago, I thought, well, maybe.
Yeah, and I like Tyronn Lue. I like Tyronn Lue because, he's a great coach.
Oh, yeah.
But they just can't seem to turn that corner.
No.
So it's just very interesting. But, yeah.
No matter, I mean, they didn't have much luck in Buffalo, not much luck in San Diego, and not much luck in L.A.
No, they're not having, and even with the new stadium that they're in, the new arena, they're still, not having that luck, that good luck. But maybe it'll change, maybe it won't. Who knows?
I went there last year, and it was really nice. The only thing is that a lot of people were very wary, and I don't blame them, of the whole AI phenomenon that's happening there, where you can just take a hot dog from the cart or the heat lamp area, take a churro, take a soda, and it'll charge it to your card. You don't even have to meet up with a cashier. It just charges automatically to your account that you put in your app. And so I think a lot of people are still skeptical. I don't blame them. I'm kind of skeptical myself of that.
Yeah, me too.
And
yeah,
so
I don't think I could handle that.
Yeah, and so I think that's why they don't have the crowds they could because of that, because it's a beautiful arena. Plus, the sight lines are much better than Staples Center, because we were up in the nosebleed section, but still felt pretty close to the action there. Nothing's going to beat the Forum. The Forum had the best sight lines. I mean, no matter where you were, the acoustics were great, but also just even if you were in the nosebleed section, you still felt close to the action of the game. Well, Staples Center, my goodness, you pretty much are looking at the monitor because the monitor is blocking some of the court if you're up in the way nosebleed section.
Yeah, you're up there with the bass player and the drummer. you could sit in a few sets with them if they let you. That's how high that is up in there. So yeah.
In fact, your wife Sonia used to work for the Forum for many years, didn't she?
Yeah, the first year we got married, she worked as an usher, and she would tell me about the different exciting adventures that she had working there. Because I think Dennis Rodman was playing for the Lakers at the time, and Shaq was there, and she would tell me about the different escapades when she said she because she's so tiny, she hated when Dennis Rodman would get kicked out of the game because he would always take off his jersey and throw it into the stands. Well, 9 times out of 10, she would be over there where he was leaving, and they would just trample her trying to get to this Dennis Rodman jersey. So, she had some exciting stories to tell about that. But yeah, that was during our first year of marriage that she worked there. I would go pick her up, and I would go pick up my nephews, and I would take them because we would sit over by the area where the Lakers would come out of the tunnel when they would be driving their cars out of the tunnel to leave the Forum. And we got a chance to see a lot of them come out. So I would always go pick my nephews up because they lived not too far from down the street, and then I would go get them, and then we would sit there and wait for her to come out of the place. Yeah.
I think the first basketball game I ever saw at the Forum was the Harlem Globetrotters. This was in early 1984. And I said, "Hey, Dad, where's the Harlem Globetrotter with a shaved head?" And he's like, "I guess he's not playing today." And so they do the introductions. He's like, "And now here's Curly Neal," and he's wearing an afro wig, and they rip the wig off, and then they throw it up in the stands. And whoever threw it did a really good job. He should have been a baseball player too, because that wig landed almost in the nosebleed section.
Wow.
And I think that
I've seen them once as well.
But yeah, it was cool looking back on it. It was a great time, but also looking back, it was neat because those were some of the most well-known players that played back then. Because Neil would retire about a year or two later, and so I remember probably about 7 or 8 years ago, two of the current Globetrotters came to the radio station here. And it was on my birthday, and one of them was also celebrating his birthday that exact same day. So that was pretty cool. And they spun the ball and let it spin on my fingers like, oh, my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah, I love to see them do that.
Now, you started Gospel Vibes online. What were the, I guess, situations or, what was the moment that really inspired you to do that?
Well, as a matter of fact, I started Gospel Vibes when I was working at Salem. There was one of the board ops there was working, and I think it was his last name is Nelson, and I remember, and Paul, I think it was John Paul Nelson. Yeah, I think that's his name. Yeah, that was my buddy, and he was telling me about Live 365, and he was in a class at his college, and they had to put together a radio station. And so he was telling me about it, and he says, "Yeah, you should. If you're at a Live 365," and I said, "No, I haven't." And he showed me how it worked and put it together. And so I wasn't. I was still working for Salem at the time. I think it was about 2004. And I started putting together this radio program because I did radio shows at this place called the American Radio Network down in Hollywood. It was called cable radio at that time. And I had found some gospel jazz CDs at one of the Christian bookstores, at Lighthouse Christian Bookstore in Lakewood. And so there was about 4 Quiet Times Players CDs. And I'm listening to these CDs, and they're playing these old hymns in a jazz-like format.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, I've never heard this before. So I went back to ARN that week, and I started introducing this format called Gospel Vibes. And I because my show was originally called The Sounds of Inspirations, and I was playing up-tempo music then, but I like smooth jazz and music. And then when I heard these gospel songs that were in a smooth jazz format, I'm like, I haven't heard any formats on radio. Not to say that there weren't any. There could have been, but this was like 1999. And I said, I'm going to introduce this. And I first introduced it on KTYM. And then, I think I was still over at Salem when I put the station together. And I said, well, you know what? When I put this station together, I want to make this format out of it. And that's when I started calling it the Gospel Vibes. And it was, I named it after these gospel jazz because it was, that's what I felt. Gospel vibes, smooth gospel jazz with the word and song with, praise designed in mind. I was taking some things from 94.7 The Wave, because they would say the smoothest place on radio, and I would say the smoothest praise on the airwaves, and that's how I came up with Gospel Vibes back in 1999, and it still goes now. I don't use the name Gospel Vibes anymore. It's PrayzeMyx now, PrayzeMyx96, but because there was somebody else came out with gospel vibes, and I didn't want them to be confused with me or my station confused with them. So then I changed mine to Praise Mix 96.
Oh, that has a
and
good
Smooth Praise Mix 96.
Oh, that sounds good. That has a good alliteration to it. So and it rhymes. So I mean, it's easy to remember. What's the website, by the way, for that for those who want to listen to it right now?
It's 961, so it's 961krtg.net. Of course, KRTG is my initials, and it's Praise Mix 96. And since I've been doing the internet radio, I've even had a few awards nominations, and there are quite a few of them. My station has been quite a few award nominations. And when I was a kid, I had always said that I wanted to be on the radio, and I'm living that dream now. And now my internet station streams all over the globe. I mean, I was just looking at looking at the analytics this morning, and it's streaming in Germany, Switzerland, Japan, China, the People's Republic of China, the Russian Federation. It's streaming all over the place, and so far the most streams I'm getting are Texas and California. But I'm streaming all over Europe and as well, and it's like, wow, this is cool, So it's something that I always wanted to do, and I had been out of radio. I left Salem in 2008, about 4 years after I started the internet station, and I kept it going. And I was out of radio for about 15 years before I started back in 2022 at KWVE.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I was out of radio for about 15 years, and I kept in contact with Brian Perez because I remember when he went over to KWVE, I was still at KKLA. And so I would keep in contact with him via Facebook every now and then, and so he let me know that, I had applied before, but the application was so difficult for me at that time, I just let it go. And then several years later, I contacted him again, and he says, we got some part-time coming up, so we want you to, if you're interested, send me your tape and resume, and your air check, and fill out the application. And I did. And April 1st of 2022, I started back in radio after 15 years of being off the air. And KWVE had two radio stations at the time. They had a radio station in Los Angeles, and they had one in San Diego. And, of course, I picked up where I left off with fill-ins because I was known as the fill-in person. So I got lots of hours filling in for different people and filling in on different shifts and things like that. And for a while when I was at Salem, and I was working at Salem and Personal Achievement Radio at the same time, I was called the Crosstown Jock. Like Tom Joyner with the Fly Jock. I was the Crosstown Jock because on Saturday nights I would leave Salem at 10:45, and I had to be over in West Hollywood at Personal Achievement Radio to be on the air at 2 minutes after midnight, and I worked from midnight to 6. So I would be doing both stations, and then I would do the same thing. Well, I would do that on Saturday nights. On Friday nights, I only worked at Personal Achievement Radio. Saturday and Sunday, I was still at Salem. So I would be in there, and then I would go all the way over to West Hollywood, get over there, and go into one of the studios and take a nap, and then I would go on the air at midnight. I worked with Scott Green over there that used to work for KFI.
That's right.
I worked with him over there, and then I worked with a couple of people that I listened to on the radio as a kid. So that was interesting to do.
Who are those DJs?
Well, the one was Don Tracy. Mm-hmm. His name is he goes by Don Tracy, and then Leisha Shear Don Tracy, the story is interesting with him because when I was going through my 90s, sending off tapes and resumes everywhere, I sent one to KGFJ AM 1230, and he was the program director at the time. And I got to speak to him for about 7 minutes. He says, I'll talk to you for about 7 minutes. That's all I can give you. And I said, okay, my name is Robert T. Graves. I sent a tape and resume to you. And he says, well, Robert T. Graves, he says, that name doesn't ring a bell. He says, that doesn't sound good, that it doesn't ring a bell. He says, but however, what you do is you keep on working at what you're doing and give us a call in about 6 months later. And I said, okay, thank you for the 7 minutes.
You're listening to The Talking Archive. Follow us on Instagram at JoshDJ57. That's where we have food reviews. JoshDJ57 on Instagram. And next time, Robert T. shares a job opportunity he got and find out how he finally met Mr. Tracy in person.